In CSS Mobile Menu. To create our CSS Mobile menu, first we'll create an unordered list of links. The last link will be the burger for the menu. This is what you see on many modern website apps where you can see three little lines on the top right corner on mobile. You click them and the menu expands down. We're going to style the elements and links with CSS, colors from padding and margins to make them look nice. Then the next step will be to hide the burger menu link on desktop. We only want it shown on mobile. We want the normal links to display as hyperlinks on desktop. On mobile, now we're going to show the burger menu on the top right. And also on mobile, we'll create a nav toggle class to display links. Then we'll use JavaScript to add the nav toggle class when the burger is clicked. This way, when someone clicks the burger icon, the menu will open down on mobile devices. When they click it again, the menu will collapse. Here we can see on the left in the reference project, we can see the HTML links on the top for home, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and examples. And on the right, we can see the same thing on mobile. So on the top, we can see that the menu hasn't been expanded. And on the bottom, we can see what happens when you click on the menu burger icon on the top right. The links expand downwards. Here we can see the HTML for the CSS mobile menu. So as we can see, we can actually have a UL list, and each item is a link. We can see where the links point to and the text. At the bottom there, then, we can see the list item with the class of burger. And inside that, 3 lines. For those lines, we'll just create a div. And we'll set the styling on that div also to look like a burger menu. And here we can see the CSS for the mobile menu. At the top, we can see the unordered list with the class of top nav. We set the list style to none, set the margins and padding, and overflow hidden. This is very important, so that if the browser is narrowed in, the overflow is hidden and doesn't interfere with anything. We can see more general CSS under that and also on the bottom to display the links. And the most important part here is display inline block for the list item anchor tags. Inline block makes sure they appear as nice inline blocks and not overlapping each other. So here now we can see the next part of the CSS. We're targeting the burger we're going to create for the menu and display none, which will hide it. Then we're setting up the burger bar to make the burger menu look nice. We're setting a width of 30 pixels and a height of 1 pixel for each tiny little bar. And we know there's 3 of them in it, so it'll look like a burger menu. Here then we can see the first media query. So here's media screen and max width 600 pixels. In other words, when you're on a mobile device only, do what's inside here. So we can see we're getting all the list items, and then not the first child means don't apply this to the first child, which is the home element. We can see display none, so they're all hidden until, of course, the user clicks the mobile menu. Just underneath then, we can see then the burger item, float right, and display inline block to position our menu top right when you're on mobile. Here we can see a second mobile query. The first part deals with the list item burger. With the burger, we position it absolutely right 0 against the right hand side and top 0 up on the top right corner, so it doesn't move around when the user clicks on the menu. In the middle then, we can see each list item in nav toggle. We're actually setting a float none and display inline, just to make them display nicely downwards. The bottom part then, we're saying nav toggle list item anchor. In other words, for each link, we want them to display block and text align left. So let's go ahead and create the HTML for the mobile nav. So we're in the example project and I have the browser open on the right. So to do this, we're going to redo our nav we created at the start. So we're just going to open up the index file and the CSS my style, which has main navigation style. So you can see here I wiped the HTML out already. So all we have here, I'll just zoom in, is the header with the image inside it. And we can see here on the top right, our image is there. So we're going to create this nav above the image, because when the nav opens up and someone clicks the mobile menu, we want the nav to push the image down. So let's start creating the HTML then. So we're going to use the nav item, so that Google will recognize it as navigation. Nav. Inside here then, we're going to create an unordered list of our links, like we've done before. UL for unordered list, and hit enter. And like we did before, each link is going to be a list item, so LI for list item, and enter. Then we're going to set up a link inside each one, A for anchor link. So the first one we're going to put to the home. We're going to click on this and it's going to go back up to the top. So we're going to have an element called home, so we go hash for element, ID, and then home. Inside here then, we're going to just put the text home. And save ctrl-s and refresh on your browser if you don't see the changes. On the right hand side here now we can see our first link in our unordered list. Home. Now I'm just going to do this a little bit quicker and I'm just going to copy and paste this in and create the rest of the links. So our next link goes down to the HTML section. And the HTML section has an ID of HTML. So again, hash to let us know we're actually going to go down to an ID or a part on our document or part on our page. And the ID is called HTML. And now we're just going to update the text for this link to HTML. Now we move down to the next one. And the ID on the CSS section is going to be CSS. And the text is going to be CSS in our link. And ctrl-s and refresh on the browser. Then the next one is going to be JavaScript. And the ID is going to be JavaScript. On the JavaScript section down the page. Finally, we're going to open in for the examples page. So for this one, the examples page is a separate HTML page. So we're going to get rid of our hash and we're going to just put in the name of the page in relation to the page we're on, so it's examples. You can see VS Code is autocomplete and examples.html. And the text for this link, I'm going to set to examples. There we can see our links. So now we can see we have our unordered list of links. Home, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, examples. And we don't need this extra home one. And we can see on the right, ctrl-s to save on your project and refresh in your browser if you can't see the changes. We now have a list. So the next thing we're going to want for this, we're going to create our burger. This is a burger menu on mobile that the person will click to open the mobile menu. So we're going to create this as the next list item. So we're going to go li, and for this we're going to put a class in. Class equals, we're just going to call it burger. Then we're going to go ahead and hit enter and save. Now for this to work, we need to have a link. And this link is just going to call a JavaScript function to actually open the menu. So I'm going to go A for link and hit enter, href. And this is going to call our JavaScript function. So we're just going to type in JavaScript colon void, because it's not going to pass any arguments in brackets 0 for no arguments. We'll cover all this in the JavaScript section. Then we're going to put a semicolon at the end. This just means JavaScript void is just going to call something from here, not pass anything in. So now we're going to just say, well, when the user clicks on this, we want to call our nav function. So we're going to say on click, and we're going to call our JavaScript function nav function. And our brackets. So there's nothing inside the brackets for this function because we don't pass anything in. When someone clicks on this element now, this link is going to call the nav function in JavaScript. So next, we want to actually create our burger items now. That's the link in the burger class. And of course, we can't see anything now on the right hand side. It's invisible. That's because we don't actually have anything visible for the user to see and click on. So we're just going to create 3 little lines. You might see these in a burger menu. It looks like a little burger. So for these lines, we're going to create divs and just give them a class of a background color and make them really, really small. So we're just going to type div and enter. We're going to create a class. I'm going to call this burger bar, not where you buy your food. So it's going to be 3 of these. So we're just going to copy and paste this down, one underneath the other. We'll style them then in CSS to make them like thin little lines to make up our burger menu. This is starting to sound like a fast food joint. So we're just going to end our href tag here. We're going to remove it from there because they don't actually have anything inside the link. And put it down now underneath these burger menus. That sounds like McDonald's. This means then we'll have another look. This is a list item, class set to burger, and inside here we have a link. Here's what we want the link to do. Then we have these items inside the link. When someone clicks on one of these burger bars, the entire burger menu, and the closing anchor tag below our 3 little lines. And there we go. So before we start creating the CSS for the mobile nav, we first need to put in a class and an ID in the unordered list. So let's go down to the unordered list UL tag, and we're going to create a class, and we're just going to call this top nav. Then beside that we're going to put in an ID. This ID is what JavaScript is going to search for in the document to change the class in order to show the mobile menu. So we're going to type ID, then hit enter. Let's call this my top nav. So the top nav class will allow us to style everything in this list, and the ID is going to allow JavaScript to open and close the menu. So now let's start on our CSS. So in the My Style CSS, not the example CSS now, we're actually using this in the main navigation on our example HTML website. I've cleared all the CSS we've done already for the menu, and scroll down to here, we can see Navbar CSS. We can see this is what we've done in the last couple of lectures. So let's start to style our mobile navigation. So I'm just going to zoom in a small bit. So Ctrl and S for save in VS Code, and refresh on your browser if you can't see any changes. So first, we want to reference the UL top nav and get rid of those bullet style lists you can see on the right hand side. So we're going to go UL for unordered list dot top nav. This is our unordered list that we've created. So we're going to go list style type none to remove those bullet points. And we can see now they've been removed. This is general CSS to make our item look nice for our menu. So we're going to remove margins and padding just to make sure that our menu is in the top left corner and looks okay. So we're going to go margin 0. You can see it going up to the very top. and padding 0. The reason we need to do this is because there's a user agent style sheet that by default, in case you don't have the styles, automatically puts padding on unordered lists and margins. We don't want them, so we'll just remove them. It's like resetting the padding and margin on a list. So one very important item next is if you have all these links displayed and someone resizes the browser, they might overflow and cause the page to have to scroll. So we want the overflow to be hidden, so that doesn't actually happen. So we're going to type overflow hidden. That'll stop any overflow links from going off the page or causing the user to scroll by accident. Now let's put some background color on it just to see if we can visually see what we're doing here. So we're going to go background color. That'll do for now. Anyone on the list. So we can see now on the right hand side, save on your project, CTRL-NS, or refresh in your browser window. We can see all the links. They're all coming down straight down, a nice background color as well. So next, we're going to style the list items to make sure they all stay on the left. So we're going to go UL for unordered list dot top nav, and to isolate the list items, we just type li. So this looks in the UL that we created in the top nav class in each list item. And we're just going to go float left for this. And we can see now how they've aligned up on the top. This is the way we want our navigation links on desktop, all lined up on the top, one beside the other in block format. So next, we want to do something with the actual anchor links. So again, they're inside the UL with the class topNav. There are list items, and there are actual anchor links inside that we've created. So we want these to always display inline block. That just means they go in a nice order and they're block elements and won't overflow or overlap each other. So we're going to go display inline block. You can see nothing has changed just because that's the default, but we want to just specify it to make sure our CSS always works perfect. And next we'll just make sure, we'll say we need the text to be centered in these anchor items. We don't want to go in left or right, depending on browser settings. So we're going to go text align center. In case we put paddings and margins inside our anchor items, we don't want the text to be left. We want it to be nice and centered. So now let's put some paddings on these. We're going to go padding, just to make them look nice and a bit bigger. So here's the shorthand we can use for top, bottom, and left and right. We're going to go 12 pixels, 14 pixels. We can see now there's padding around them. We're just going to zoom out, CTRL and minus on the browser. We can see now when we hover over one, there's padding top right and bottom left. So which is top right and bottom left here? Well, let's just go in here and reduce this down to 1 pixel. We can see now there's very little top and bottom. So the first figure there is top and bottom, and the second figure of 14 pixels is left and right. So let's just set that to 10 pixels. Top, bottom, and 14 left and right. That looks okay to me. And again, we can see our text is centered. So now we can see on these here, we want to make sure we don't have any underline unders. So let's just set the text decoration, which will get rid of the underlines, to none, to make sure they don't come back in our links. We can see now when we hover, they don't actually have the underline underneath them. We don't really want that underline. Now they look more like little button nav links. Another cool thing you can do now with a hover effect and stuff is a transition. How long it takes a transition to hover over. We can see here they light up instantly when you hover over them. So let's just set transition to 0.2 seconds. So now we can see when we hover over the links, the transition to them changing color is slightly slower. And if you're wondering where this hover effect comes from, you can see it because we've already set the links up here in our CSS. We can see active link red, visited link green, mouse over hover is that color there. So we can override those just specifically for the mobile nav menu, which most people do. So we can see here on the right now we have our links. And we can actually hover over our burger item here, which we can't see because we haven't set the background color yet. And of course we click it, nothing happens yet. We haven't put in JavaScript. How cool is that? So now let's move on to the burger items. We can see the burger bars. So again, where are they? They're in the unordered list with the top nav class. They're a list item. And the class name for the burger we created is just burger. So we're going to set display none. So this will automatically hide it unless the user is actually on mobile device. Display none. And save. So when we go over and hover now, we can see it's disappeared beside the examples there. So let's just, for now, set this to display block so that we can style it, and then we'll hide it. Now, so we're going to style the burger bars now. So we're going to go dot for class bur burger bar. We want these to be small little thin lines. We're going to go each little thin line, we want them to width 30 pixels. We're going to have height very skinny. We'll say 1 pixel. So we'll only see it now when we set the background colors. We're going to set the background color of them to just black for now to make them obvious. So we can see up there now, we can see one of our burger bars. So now we can only see one because they're all crunched up together. We haven't actually put any margins and padding between these thin little lines we've just created. So we can use a shorthand here. So let's just go margin 3 pixels top and bottom, 0 left and right. Now we can see on the top right, if you save on your project, or refresh in your browser window, we can see the burger menu has been created. There's our 3 divs. We've set them to 30 pixels wide, 1 pixel tall, a background color of black, and a margin 3 pixels top to bottom, so that we can see them, and no margin on left and right. So let's go back now and automatically hide that by changing the burger display class to none. And save and refresh on your browser. You can see now the burger is hidden on desktop. That's what we want. We don't want anyone to see it on desktop. So now let's create our media queries for mobile. So we're just going to go down here. We're going to go at media screen. And what do we want? We want maximum width. We'll set it to 600 pixels. Then outside the brackets, open and close curly brackets. In other words, whatever CSS we put in here is only going to have effect on screens smaller than 600 pixels. In other words, mobile devices. So let's go into our project now here on the right hand side and go into Dev Tools. Windows, it's F12. And we're just going to move this and click on the mobile example. We can see here, we'd have to click this to 100% in order to see it. And we can select whatever mobile phone we want to preview it with here. I'm just going to click, I usually click the iPhone SE. So we can see now on the iPhone, all the links are just like they are on desktop. And if you click this onto responsive, you can drag it in and out and see how they behave. Of course, at the minute, there's no mobile query acting on them. So they're all just scrunched up when they're on a mobile device. So I'll set that back to iPhone mobile. So what do we want to do now that we're on mobile in our CSS media query? Well, let's hide all the links apart from the very first home one and just display the first home one on the top left. So for that, we're going to access them by UL top nav class list item. But we don't want the home one to be hidden. So we're going to go colon not open brackets colon first child. Then we're going to open and close our curly brackets. So this CSS will apply to all the links apart from the first home link. And we're going to go display none. So why doesn't it work? Well, you can see we made a very simple mistake here with max width 600. I didn't put px for pixels at the end of it. Now, that looks a bit better. So we can see now that all the links are hidden on mobile apart from the first home link. That's exactly what we wanted. So what do we want next? We want to position our burger item now on mobile because we can't see it at the minute. So underneath this, we're going to access our burger by going UL for unordered list. It's in the top nav class. It's a list item. And remember the class we called it burger. And we're going to go float right. And we're going to go display inline block to display inline block to look nice and neat with the rest of the elements. And save on your project and refresh in your browser. And you can now see we have our burger over on the right hand side and our home link on the left. Just on mobile. So let's just check that now. Let's go back to responsive and they disappear. So that's desktop size. Up here on the top we can see the pixels, the dimension responsive, pixel width at the minute 700 pixels, height 758. We want to focus on the width 712. As you drag it in, you'll see the width reduce, and once it goes below 600, we can see all the links get hidden, the home stays on the left, and our burger menu appears. In other words, you're on a mobile device. So I'm just going to set that back now to a mobile device. Next, we want to set what happens now to the nav toggle class that JavaScript is going to add in and then remove as the user clicks on the burger menu. So to keep that separated and easy to see and understand, we'll create another media query for mobile underneath. So at media, screen, and inside brackets, max width, and we go 600 pixels again, not forgetting the PS this time. So JavaScript will automatically add the nav toggle class. So let's sculpt what we want the nav toggle class to do. So when JavaScript puts it in, it's going to be here. We can see UL class top nav. When JavaScript comes along, it's going to go in here and insert the nav toggle class for us like this. And that will cause the nav to show and hide. So we'll remove that for now. That's all JavaScript is going to do for us. So let's make out now what we actually want the nav toggle class to do. So we're going to go into our unordered list, top nav dot nav toggle. into the list item with the burger class. So first, we want to make sure that when the nav toggle class is added, the burger stays where it was. Otherwise, it might shift. It will actually shift when someone clicks on the menu. So we're going to go position. We're going to type in absolute. This means don't ever change the position of our burger once there's nav toggle classes on it. So we're going to go right 0. We want it all the way over to the right hand side. And top 0. We want it all the way up at the top. So that's for our burger. So what now do we want the nav toggle class to do to the list items when it's added? So let's go in again into ul unauditedList dot top nav. And when the nav toggle class is added, what do we want to do to our LI's list items? Here, we want to make sure that they display properly. So we're going to go float none. This is like a sanitary measure to make sure they act as we expect. And display inline. We want them to display neatly down in the line. And like we saw before, now we have to say, what do we want with the nav toggle class? What do we want our anchor links to do? So we're going to now say ul top nav toggle list item, because our anchors are in list items, A. We're dealing with our anchor link this time. What do we want them to do? We want to make sure they display blocks so they don't overlap anywhere. So we're going to set the display block. And just to make them look nice, on mobile we'll have the text for them actually aligned to the left. Remember, we had it centered on desktop. Text align left. So we're going to save that now. Now, how can we test this? Well, JavaScript is just going to put the nav toggle class into our unordered list when we click on the mobile menu. So we'll simulate that by going back here. And in our unordered list here, we can see class equal top nav. We're just going to put in the nav toggle class manually here. Now, when we click save in our project and refresh in our browser, we can see now with the nav toggle class added, all the links display underneath each other. So let's go back now and simulate what JavaScript would do by removing the nav toggle class and saving. We can see now they disappear again. That's exactly what we want. So I'll just undo that and add it back in and save, and they appear again. That's all JavaScript will do for us. It'll replace our class with nav toggle when someone clicks on the mobile menu icon. How cool is that? So now let's go ahead and write our JavaScript in order to add in the nav toggle class. Because we can see at the minute, when we click our burger, nothing happens. And you can see here on the right, of course, there's an error count in VS in the browser because there's no JavaScript attached to the button yet. So if we go back to our index.html, we can see here our burger item link is JavaScript void onClick equals nav function. So we need to call our function nav function. So let's copy that name. And before I go into our JavaScript file, make sure you've also linked the JavaScript file. Up here in the head, we can see a link to our My Style CSS, a link to our example CSS, and a link to our JS folder, myjs.js JavaScript file. So let's go into our JavaScript file. Now what do we want to do? We want to create this function when the burger menu is clicked, that the nav toggle class will get swapped over. So we're going to go function, the name of our function, nav function, open close curly brackets with nothing inside because we don't have any parameters. Sorry, open and close normal brackets, and then the main open and close curly brackets. So first we have to get JavaScript to see the top nav that we've actually created on the page to do something with it. So we're going to create a variable x, going to set it equal to, we want to get the top nav by its element, so document dot get element by ID. Then we want to specify the ID that we created inside brackets and quotes. Remember, we created the ID my top nav. Then we're going to go to the end and put in semicolon. That's our first line. So we can see here in the HTML, the UL classic as top nav ID actually has, of course, my top nav. So now JavaScript can isolate this top nav UL and do something with it. So what do we want to do with it then? We're going to check it first to see if the top nav class has been added. Or is it on its own? Is nav toggle there, or is it just top nav or one or the other? So we're going to write in if. What do we want to check? We want to check is x, which is our top nav now, we've just retrieved it, dot class name. If x class name, 3 equal signs means exactly equal to. In other words, it's not just equals 1 or 2, but 3 equal signs mean is this actually equal to, is our class equal to? Then we put in brackets. What's there when nobody has clicked it? Our top nav class. Then we go to the end of the line and put in semicolon. When we have a look back, we can see here, yes, indeed, it is just equal to top nav. There's no nav toggle class yet. That means the menu has not been opened on mobile. So we remove that and just put in, what do we want to do? Well, if no one has clicked on the mobile menu, the class is just top nav, and this function has been called, that means someone has clicked. So we want to actually add in our nav toggle class. So we're going to go x.className. And to add it in, we're actually going to go plus equals, which means append. We're going to open our string. We're going to put a space first, otherwise it'll join us straight onto top nav and break the top nav class. A space. We want to add in our nav toggle class. And semicolon to end that line. So what do we want to do then if x.className is not equal to top nav, if somebody has already opened it and clicked on it? Well, here's where the else comes in. We're just going to write else, open and close curly brackets. In other words, if the menu is already open and the nav toggle class is actually already there, we want to remove it. So we're going to go else x.className equals top nav. But we just tab, we can see VS Code is autocompleting it. That means if we discover that nav toggle is actually there and someone has clicked, we want to remove it. So let's ctrl and save that and refresh in your browser. And we'll see hopefully it works when I click on the burger menu item. And there we go. It adds the nav toggle class. How cool is that? Let's just have a look here now in the browser. We'll drag this out so we can see the elements. I'll just ctrl and minus to reduce the size. I'll click on elements. Okay. I'll just expand the screen altogether. We'll right click on our burger menu and click inspect. We can see here everything we have. So we can see here our top nav class is just set to top nav. Just going to zoom in. So now when we click on our burger menu item, JavaScript should automatically have in the nav toggle class. So let's click here. We can see now it's just flashed here. Nav toggle has been added and the menu is open. And if we click again, we can see this is flashed again and nav toggle has been removed. How cool is that? Hi, I hope you found this video helpful. If so, please like, share, comment and subscribe so you don't miss out on any upcoming videos in the Web Development for Beginners playlist. See you next time.